I love New York City in the summer. It's hot and humid, just how I like it. I'm headed downtown on the subway to Chinatown to get art supplies, and then I'll have some vegetable lo mein and get a chair massage. That's kind of my weekly routine. New York is known for having great art supply stores like New York Central or Pearl, which is no longer around. But now you can get great art supplies through major online stores like Blick, which also has brick and mortar stores. I like to go and open paint tubes and feel brushes, and they have all of the brands that I use, all the mediums I like, everything in one place. They know me in the store, they like me. I thought they liked me just because I'm a nice guy, but I think it's because I'm putting their kids through college. Most of my brushes are older than high school students, but when I buy new ones, I like to go to the store and try them out in person. The basic anatomy of a paintbrush is the bristles at one end, then the silver part called the ferrule that connects the bristles to the handle by the crimp, which is the part that secures the handle to the ferrule, and then finally the handle, which is usually made of wood or acrylic. This is a round, which is tubular in shape, and it's good for sketching and drawing, and also for thinned down oil paint, applying very long tapered lines. This is a bright. It is square when seen from the front and very thin from the side. It shows brushstrokes very well, therefore it's good for impasto and thick paint. But because it's fairly stiff, it can remove as much paint as it applies. This is a flat. It's similar because it's flat from the front and thin from the side, but it has longer bristles than a bright. This is the most versatile brush. It's good for blending jobs, for broad, fat marks with thick paint, but if you flip it on its side, you can put down very narrow marks. It's also good for smaller blending jobs. And this is a filbert, also known as a cat's tongue. It has long bristles but softer, rounded edges, and is good when you don't want ridges in your paint. And this is a fan brush, ideal for blending and soft transitions. The first thing I do when I buy a brush is snap the handle in half, because I want my gigantic hands to be as close as possible to the battlefield, and nothing gets wasted. I've been represented by dozens of galleries over the last 33 years, and I've honed that number down to 7 commercial galleries and 1 private dealer who represent me. And all of them are among the best in the business, and we've been together for 20 plus years. I can tell you with certainty that a successful artist-gallery relationship is not about sales. It's about loyalty and trust. And if you can plant those seeds and nurture them, then the sales will eventually come. A good dealer is one who sees the broad picture, who says, let's start slowly and build something. I meet a lot of younger and inexperienced painters, and the common misconception about showing in art galleries is that they think if they get a gallery, or when they get a gallery, they will make a lot of money and become famous. And that is not the case. Galleries never take on totally unknown artists. You have to have something already established, some local following, or the beginnings of a resume, some sort of track record, and then a gallery can take that and enhance it. In other words, a gallery takes something that's already been started and then takes it to the next level. It takes a lot of time to do that. When I was starting out, I did everything myself. I even invented a fake publicist who would send out press releases on my behalf. And it also allowed me to say, let me speak to my manager, which sounds a hell of a lot more impressive than, golly, sure. In the early 80s, I would drive around all over South Carolina and North Carolina in my 1983 Honda Accord, full of my paintings, and I would deliver fully produced Brian Rutenberg exhibitions to anyone that said yes. I would show up looking like Gomer Pyle on speed, and I would have the paintings, all of the hanging wires and hammers and nails, all of the wrapping material, a price list, a pre-written press release. I even had a cheese plate and plastic cups to serve wine at the reception. I would show anywhere, anytime, including medical office lobbies, pubs, cafes, even a high security prison. All someone had to do was say yes, but it took a long, long time. I can tell you there are no talent scouts in this business. You are totally and completely on your own. And I say this all the time, no one cares what you do. And as soon as you realize that, you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof. So it is great to work with galleries, and yes, galleries are an important part of the mechanics of this business, but you have to have something already going first, and that you have to do by yourself. In my 20s and 30s, before I had a family, I would paint in my studio every single day for 12 to 14 hours, and then go out with my dirtball friends. My energy was boundless. Now I'm 50 years old, and I'll paint for a little while and then sit down and suddenly wake up 20 minutes later with a string of saliva dangling from my chin. I'll be honest, most of my day is spent sitting on my ass staring at my paintings. And a big part of my day is dictated by the rate at which I want my paintings to dry. Painters can use things called secatives, such as Japan dryer, which will speed up the drying time of oil paint. I prefer a Gamblin product called Galkyd, which is an alkyd resin, which speeds up the drying time of oil paint. I'll also scrape a big dollop of paint and spread it out on a newspaper, on the New York Times, wait about an hour, and the newspaper absorbs much of the oil, leaving a dense biscuit of color, which is much drier than paint right out of the tube. If I want to slow down the drying time, I will lay the painting down on the floor and put newspapers on top of it for overnight. A process which I learned from studying Willem de Kooning, who would then lift up the pieces of newspaper and travel the image to other paintings. I'll also add things like sun-thickened linseed oil or walnut oil to slow down the drying time and keep the paint fresh and workable for the next day. And if I have a color that I absolutely need the next morning, I use rubbers. I will drop a big load into a condom, tie the end, and then go home. Painters often ask me if they are selling out because someone asked them to paint something for money. And my answer is yes, they are selling out. So what? I did it. Every painter at some point prostitutes their skill for money. You have to make money in order to live, and you have to live to make your work. Whether I was painting flower baskets in Charleston to sell to summer tourists, or some dirtball neighbor asked me to paint a trompe-l'oeil ceiling in their kitchen. Everybody at some point has to paint in order to make money. Pierre Mondrian painted flowers for his entire career because they satisfied a deep need within him. But he also painted them because they sold. Charles Birchfield designed wallpaper. People love the romantic notion of the starving artist, but they probably never had to live on Captain Crunch or wash their hair in gas station sinks. One of my greatest sellouts was in 1989. I designed and made table centerpieces for the International Rock Awards here in New York City, which was televised. And I made $3,000 or $4,000 in order to buy paint, and I got to hang out backstage with Eric Clapton and Keith Richards. I made some money, and I got great stories. And I'm old enough now to realize you do everything for the stories. So doing whatever you have to do to make money is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of badass, weaponized strength.